Today I want to talk to you about libertarian sexual morality. Just like with traditional sexual morality, there are rules to be followed. People may claim to be part of the love generation, but to be a libertarian within the love generation or the generation that exhorts libertarian values, there are rules that need to be followed. There are 5 rules. I'll explain them to you. They're already pre-listed on the board. I'll go into them in some detail so that you have a clear understanding of the rules for libertarian sexual morality. Rule number 1 is no dishonesty. That's why every major ethical system has the rule no lying. Lying does not enhance interpersonal relationships. For example, I had a friend named Terry and Ruth, fell in love with each other as soon as they met one another. I would say they fell in love with one another very hard. Within months, they were talking about marriage. Ruthie was still in school, did not want to be intimate and have children. Terry made a promise to her that there was no way that she could get pregnant because he had had a vasectomy. And so as relationships go, their relationship deepened intimately, physically. Within a year, the first child arrived. Obviously, Terry had lied. Within a year and a half, the second child arrived. And about 2 years after that, the third child arrived. Ruthie found a way to get over it. She was deeply in love with Terry. But it did fracture their relationship and remained a point of contention between them for many, many, many years. Dishonesty is not a healthy part of human relationships and is part of the libertarian sexual morality. One of the rules is that there is no dishonesty. You must be forthright in all your relationships. No lying. Rule number 2 is no exploitation. Exploitation can be very subtle sometimes. You ladies who are watching this will understand this immediately. I believe you gentlemen as well. The example of exploitation I'd like to share with you is this. A man and a woman are in a relationship. One of them obviously wants sexual relationships. The other is not sure they would like it. And the comment is, well, honey, if you love me, you will. Well, come on, baby, you love me, you will. I thought you loved me, honey. If you love me, you will. That's exploitation. It's an exploitation of the heart. It's a subtle pressure put on the heart in order to exploit somebody's love to do something they're not quite ready to do. Don't forget, libertarianism is graced or based on the idea that you're free to do whatever you want to do as long as what you do doesn't interfere with someone else's freedom to do what they do. It does not involve exploitation. We come to that liberty as each one of us feels that liberty within our own sense of person, our sense of well-being, of what we feel like is in our best interest. So no dishonesty, no exploitation. Number 3 is no coercion. Coercion can be indirect, but it can be very direct as well. I heard a story that I've confirmed from a number of, again, ladies. This form of coercion, it at times happens in the ladies' locker room. It sounds like this. What do you mean you're still a virgin? How can you be a virgin? No one is a virgin anymore. What's wrong with you? How can you be a virgin? And ladies are coerced into having sexual relationships before they intend to have those relationships. Coercion is not a user-friendly part of relationships as well. We want to be very careful that we allow people in a libertarian framework to come to their own decisions within their own time, using their own freedom to make their own decisions. So no dishonesty, no exploitation, no coercion. Fourthly, no breaking of prior agreements. It was 1974. I was discharged from the military. I went home for a week and immediately went upstate New York to visit an old friend of mine. Turns out he was still married to his wife. They had a very strong and good relationship. We spent the afternoon having some crackers and cheese and wine, remembering old times. About 4 o'clock, his wife stood up and said, well, I have to get dressed. I'm going out tonight. Friday night, I thought girls' night out. Made perfect sense to me. About an hour later, she came downstairs, dressed very well, dressed to the nines, as I would say. Knock on the door about the same time she came downstairs. My friend got up, opened the door. And to my surprise, there's a young gentleman also dressed to the nines. Looked like he was prepared to go out for the night as well. My friend's wife looked at him and said, don't wait up for me, I'll probably be a little late. He said, what time do you think you might be home? She said, probably around midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. Gave him a kiss goodbye. He kissed her goodbye. She went to the front door and she kissed the young gentleman who was dressed to the nines, and they held hands and went out the door together. Needless to say, I'm a little confused. I said, everything okay? My friend turned to me and said, oh yes, we have an open marriage. I thought, you have an open marriage? It's an interesting term. I hadn't heard that before I went to Europe, but evidently they agreed upon it. They had no problem with that agreement. And so she went off to have a night with her friend, and my friend and I stayed up. We talked well into the night. went to bed. Next morning I got up. His wife had come home. Everything seemed fine between them. I had to go to Michigan. I wished them well. Got in the car and made my journey. I got to the capital of Michigan, Lansing. Probably within about 2 weeks, I met a young lady named Amy, very nice lady. We got to know one another. We went out on a number of dates. One day she said, would you like to come over and have a home-cooked meal? Well, I've been in the military for 3 years. There's no such thing as a home-cooked meal in the military. I said, sure. So I went over. She lived in student housing, sat down, very nice vegetarian meal. About a third of the way through it, I hear this key go in the front door. A couple of seconds later, the door opens and in walks a gentleman. He says, hi, babe, I'm home. She says, hi, hon, how was your day? Oh, Larry, this is my husband, Richard. I'm sitting there thinking, this is your husband, Richard. She says, oh, it's okay. We have an open marriage. We're okay with this. I'm sitting there thinking, well, you may be okay with this, but I'm not okay with this. I'm a one-on-one guy. This is a very important fact that perhaps you should have informed me about. She said, are you okay? And I said, no, not really. In fact, I think I'm going to go. She was very disappointed. I was very disappointed. They were not breaking any prior agreements that they had, but I was not informed of this prior agreement. It's important that we inform each other of what's going on if we're going to freely choose to enter into relationships with one another, regardless of the boundaries. Someone wants to have an open marriage, that's their choice. People don't want to have an open marriage, that's their choice. That's the expression of your freedom. But you can't make those expressions or those choices freely if you don't know what the rules of engagement are. Obviously, in an open marriage, the rules of engagement are going to be different than if you have what I would call a one-on-one relationship or closed marriage. So no dishonesty, no exploitation, no coercion, no breaking of agreements, and fifth and most importantly, never, 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 ever children. Children lack the rational capacity to make informed decisions, especially when it's in the area of sexual relationship. If you're going to be a libertarian and you're going to follow libertarian sexual moral principles, you must follow these 5 rules. Again, no dishonesty, no exploitation, no coercion, no breaking of prior agreements, and never, never, ever involving children.